Hello everyone, welcome to our live stream. Thank you so much for watching us and I hope you're having a good day today. Our guest today is Taha Ayhan, President of Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum, and I'm very excited for this discussion. Taha is already sending me a request. Name the stream. Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum is an international, non-commercial, non-partisan organization uniting leading umbrella youth organizations in the member states of Organization of the Islamic Cooperation. And later, Taha will tell us a bit more about this wonderful organization. Hello, Taha.
Hello, Valerie.
How are you?
Thank you very much. It's all good here, and I hope you are all also well in Russia as well. How are you?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
That's
Thank you
great.
so much. Just a reminder to our viewers, please feel free to ask questions and to write any comments.
Please.
And we will read them and we will answer them. Thank you. So, Taha, maybe you want to start off by sharing some news and telling us what happened yesterday?
Yes, in the meeting, yes. Thank you very much, dear Valerie. And it's really good to be here with you. As you know, we have scheduled this meeting, this broadcast of Instagram. So I tried to get used to the new terms of the Instagram live sessions.
Yeah.
It's different from the old new, and we are kind of getting used with the new normal. Yesterday it was planned, but His Excellency Mr. President Erdogan has accepted has received us in Istanbul. So because of this, we have to postpone as an unscheduled events. But the meeting was
President Erdogan, you mean, right?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Did you send him our greetings from Russia?
Definitely, I have mentioned our cooperation with the National Youth Council of Russia, and he was very happy to hear that. I hope we will strengthen our cooperation and collaboration to the new projects and programs. And the meeting was brilliant, fabulous. Inshallah, you will see the results in the near future with our new projects. And he shows us a great support and a great interest to our projects. And it was really motivating for us to be received by him and to explain and express our emotions, explain our projects. And Alhamdulillah, it was very good. Thank you very much.
Okay, we wish you good luck.
Thank you.
And I hope the president will support whatever you propose to him, because I'm sure it will be a great initiative.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Taha, could you please tell us a little bit more, but in a concise form, about your organization, Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum? How was it founded? How does it function? How close is it to the Organization of Islamic Cooperation? Is it more independent, like a youth NGO? And what is your main mission? What kind of activities do you hold? And like, who are your member organizations? Even I believe it would be interesting for our viewers.
Thank you very much. As you mentioned and as you described, the ICYF is an affiliated youth NGO in real terms, international NGO, and affiliated to the OIC, Organization of Islamic Cooperation. And our main goal, our main aim is youth advocacy and making projects and programs for empowerment of the youth in several terms, including the economical terms, including the cultural terms, including the increasing their social standards, well-being. So we have very huge mandate, and in Russia, of course, you have the same mandate from the Russian perspective. For this, you are working for the sake of the Russian youth. The ICYF, the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum, has been founded by an international agreement which has been signed between the Turkish government and the General Secretariat of OIC upon a Council of foreign ministers decision, which has been adopted in 2008. So we, from fund perspective, we are international organization which is enjoying all the immunities and privileges as among other international organizations. But from another perspective, we are an NGO which is working for youth all around the world, especially for the Muslim youth, especially for the youth in the Muslim countries. So we have a very interesting characteristics in our nature as well. And since it's an NGO, we have an independency on our works, on our decisions, on our projects and programs. And our main function for the moment, for the next 5 years, is implementing the Joint Youth Action Plan of the OIC, which has been adopted by the OIC heads of states in the last summit of OIC. But also beyond that, for implementing this Joint Youth Action Plan of the OIC, we are creating new projects and we are trying to create new collaborations and cooperations with other institutional organizations as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And who are the members of the Islamic Cooperation Youth Forum? Because as is mentioned in the description, that you don't only work with the members of the OIC, but
OIC,
also
yes.
with the countries with the Muslim minorities worldwide.
Correct.
Are they members or are they just in another form of status?
We have two kinds of members. One kind of members are the national youth councils or the leading youth institutions of member states of the OIC. So they are representing their countries. And this, in the second category, we have also other members who are international organizations who are working for the Muslim youth in non-member states. Mm-hmm. In both of these categories, we have 60 member organizations in our General Assembly. But beyond that, we are also establishing other kind of links and other kind of cooperation possibilities with lots of other NGOs and foundations as well. Beyond these 60 members, we are up to now we have formed an NGO network within the OIC geography, and also formed also beyond the OIC geography, which has a members of 300 different NGOs in the youth sector.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you have any members from Russia so far?
Yes, SELET, the Tatarstan Youth Organization, Youth Council, is our member, and we are really proud of them because they are really doing great job. And you know, the president of the SELET, the Timur Bey, is now deputy minister of youth and sports in Tatarstan, and we are really proud of them.
Okay, that's great. And I believe they're holding some kind of an event right now in Tatarstan with the OIC at the moment.
There's a traditional event of ICYF in Tatarstan, which shall be organized in every year, which is called as the Entrepreneurs Summit, Investment Summit, which shall be organized in the margin of Kazan Islamic Summit. But this year, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we couldn't organize it offline, so they had transformed it into online sessions, and they're really doing great job. I am also watching them, and mashallah, they are doing great job.
Yeah, what to do? Youth organizations have to be flexible and to adapt fast to the new challenges. Yeah, that's true. And what about the management of the ICYF? Is it linked with the OIC, or does it function independently?
We are functioning independently. We have an independent budget. We have independent General Assembly. We have independent auditory board. So we are acting totally independently, enjoying this independence as well. But also we have to be in line with the OIC rules and regulations and OIC common policy. So we should not act against the OIC policy, or we shall not violate the rules of OIC policy, but we can enjoy full independency on our decisions and projects and programs. And up to now, the OIC shows great support on our projects and programs, and because of this support, we can achieve some achievements up to now for sake of the youth.
And what about the funding of the ICYF? Where does it come from? From the OIC?
The 50% of the budget shall be came from the host country, Turkey, namely, and the rest of the budget shall be came from the OIC member states on voluntarily based. So these are the member states who contribute to the ICYF budget. And also we are receiving contributions to our projects in kind or in cash from our project partners.
That's cool. That's really great. I'm happy to hear that the governments of the OIC are really supporting youth initiatives. That's great, I believe. And
we are also very thankful to them.
Yes. And does the ICYF does it have a capacity and ability to influence maybe some decisions on the OIC level?
Yes. First of all, we are invited to all kind of projects and programs and meetings of the OIC, including the summit and including the Council of Foreign Ministers and other conferences of the sectoral ministerial conferences. So we are part of this decision-making process as well. Also, we can provide them the policy papers. We can provide them some research papers as well for shaping the projects, programs, decisions. But since this is an intergovernmental body, I'm talking about the OIC itself. Since this is an intergovernmental body, it's not easy to produce new policies, and there are really strict procedures to follow for adopting new policies, creating new policy makings, and taking new decisions. But I can assure you that ICYF is part of the decision-making process of the OIC.
Okay, that's great. And how do you engage those Muslim minorities in the countries that are not members of the OIC? For example, okay, I understand that in Russia you managed to include like a Muslim youth organization to the ICYF, but what is the case with other countries?
For example, for the North America, we are collaborating with the youth NGOs in North America. I mean, the Canada and for the United States of America. And for Europe also, we have member organizations who are working for the youth Muslim minorities in European countries. Also, they are like FEMISO, the European student organization of Muslim populations. We have member organizations like that, and they're working for the Muslim youth in the European countries. They have established according to the laws and regulations of the host country. So beyond over them, we are trying to implement our programs, projects. We are trying to carry out our programs with this collaboration and cooperation. Up to now, we can reach the Muslim minorities in non-member states.
Okay, interesting. And what about those young people who live in Muslim countries, for example, but they're not Muslims for themselves, for example?
Thank you very much. First of all, Valerie, I have to explain that we don't have any criteria for our projects or programs for any applicant which makes compulsory to be a Muslim. So our programs and projects are open to any young people who are eligible, of course, for according to criterion, but there is no criteria for a religious or for belief based. So any young person from any member state or from any country can apply and can be accepted to our projects and programs. And up to now, I think in all over the 2019, we have received more than 730,000 applications from 123 different countries, and we have a chance to host. I think 9,000. I don't really remember the last figures, but we have a chance to host it of 9,000 of them, which are from 72 different countries. And we didn't make any selection based on the religion or beliefs, because even though we one of the function is advocating the Muslim minority and youth of the Muslim communities, it's not this function shall not be applied by discriminating the young people or based on their beliefs or religion. We try to reach out all the young people, because I think if we reach out them without discriminating them, and if we work for all young people all around the world, we will do our function more better. This is our main aim.
Okay, that's awesome. And also in Islam, there are many movements that sometimes have different contradictions between each other. Have you ever faced any problems within the organization because of this issue?
Sorry, I couldn't hear because of the problem.
Yeah, it's okay. So in Islam, there are many movements.
Correct.
Like, you know what I
Yes,
mean?
I know.
Yes. So have you had any problems within ICYF, or maybe during the events, or I don't know, inside the board, or just in general in your work among young people? How often do you face this problem that is based on contradictions between different Islam movements?
Maybe I should talk about. I should tell something about our projects and programs. First of all, dear Valerie, ICYF is not a religious organization, and we are not having any religious projects or programs. So anybody who is interested to be part of ICYF, or who is interested to be part of our projects or join our programs, are welcome to the ICYF as always. So we never ask for their beliefs or religion. And also, we don't have any religious projects or programs, or we don't have any projects about sharing the religion or beliefs or sects of Islam. Because of this, we don't, up to now, we didn't have any problem with within the context, as you mentioned, about a religion or belief or a sect within Islam. For example, if I should talk about our projects and programs, we have 7 pillars. We have named as 7 pillars. And one pillar is the cultural pillar. In this cultural pillar, we try to increase the awareness about the Islamic cultural heritage, not about the Islam itself, not about the knowledge of Islam, but we are trying to increase the awareness of Islamic cultural heritage, because Islamic cultural heritage is a common value for all people, not only Islam even. It's also an heritage of humanity, so it's a common value for the whole humanity. And our second pillar is empowerment of the youth through the economical terms, through trainings, through investment summits, through online and offline boot camps. And also we are focusing on education, because one of the main problems that we have spotted through our analysis and researches from the field, it's shown that one of the biggest problems for the youth in the OIC geography is about the lack of education and lack of the educational opportunities, accessibility to the educational courses and trainings. So we are also trying to provide new opportunities on the base of education, especially on vocational education and entrepreneurial development. And the other pillar of ICYF is the art. These pillars are the main themes of our projects, and we are collecting our projects under these pillars. And one of our project pillar is the environment pillar, which we are focusing on the climate change and yes, definitely. All of our pillars and projects are come part of the SDGs as well. And if I try to list these pillars from 1 to 7 is the culture, social awareness, economic empowerment, environment, art, youth development, and networking. So we are focusing on increasing the connectivity between these young people. We are focusing on giving them new opportunities, giving them better understanding of the world, and trying to increase their awareness about what they have in their heritage, in their culture. So we don't have any field of activity which can lead to a conflict based on the religion or sect or different beliefs.
Okay, I understand. So even young people from Israel can participate in your activities?
If you are saying that an Israeli person who is a Palestinian person who has a Israel citizenship and passport, yes, they can, of course, welcome to our projects. But since Israel is not a part of the OIC geography, and there are some OIC policies, an Israeli citizen, Israeli person cannot participate to our project and programs, unfortunately.
Okay, I understand. Politics is politics.
Yeah, we are trying to we have to, of course, we have to act out of the politics. Because we don't have anything with the politics between the member states, between the OIC and other states, and it's part of the OIC rules about the specific state. But other than that, we are opening doors for everybody, every young people.
Okay, thank you. Another subject that I wanted to touch on is Islamophobia, because right now the Muslim population around the world is rising, is increasing, especially in Europe. And for example, and in the West, where, for example, you would not expect it necessarily. And for many people, especially those who know nothing about Islam at all, when they hear Islam and Muslims, the first things that come to their mind are some strange terms like extremism, terrorism, and so on. So from this, I have 2 questions for you. First one, how does ICYF work with young people to counter extremism? And the second one, what does it do to dismantle this kind of Islamophobic stereotypes?
Thank you very much. This is one of the top priority for ICYF and for the OIC, and for, I think it shall be the top priority for all people all around the world. Because we are not talking about the Islamophobia only, but we are talking about the xenophobia. This is only one face of the xenophobia, and unfortunately, this xenophobic attitude is rising day by day in all around the world. And as we have witnessed in the Christchurch attack last year in New Zealand.
New Zealand.
And as you would accept, New Zealand is like a safe haven for everything. You are at the edge of the world. You are far away from all discussions of this old continent. But even in New Zealand, they had attacked the Muslims when they are praying. Praying as the is the most peaceful state of mind of any person, and it's the more. And while you are praying, you are at the most vulnerable stance of your life, and they were targeted in this situation. So we should understood that there is no safe haven from any kind of xenophobia, but for Muslims, of course, the Islamophobia is important on this point, and we should act against those violence, those extremism, those kind of xenophobia, altogether as a humanity. So it's not a Muslim problem, it's not a black problem, it's not a women problem, it's not a other kind of disadvantaged groups or target groups problem. It's a problem of humanity. And on this matter, we are organizing several peace forums for raising the awareness about Islamophobia, and we are trying to giving trainings to the young people to how to cope with Islamophobia, because Islamophobia is not an extreme cases. Is also part of daily life experiences for many people, especially as you mentioned in the West Europe and Western world. So we are trying to giving trainings to young people for advocacy, for human rights advocacy, for explaining and giving them the training to how to cope with this Islamophobia in their daily life. And we are giving these trainings as a training for trainers. And the name of this project is the Heads Up High. With the, of course, collaboration and cooperation of the FEMISO, and also we have organized, as I have mentioned, peace forums for gathering the young people, leading young people from different countries, different geographies, and different cultures to discuss about how they can cope with Islamophobia together. And for extremism, it's also a dangerous problem that we shall fight against, and all our projects are focusing on fighting and combating against the extremism, because we shall think about the reasons of the extremism. When we look at the reasons, the grassroots reasons of the extremism, we are seeing mostly the economical disadvantagements, poverty, lack of education, and we can see so many prejudgments. So we are trying to cope with these grassroots reasons as well by our projects and pillars. But on the other hand, we have to understood that this Islamophobia, the image that you have mentioned while you are asking the question, the image about the Islam and Muslims that you have mentioned while you are asking your question, is a manufactured perception by the media outlets and by several experts, by several think tanks, by several anchormen, actors, actresses, by several phenomenon people. So those people, those networks, also the people and networks and institutions that shall be combated with, because they are pumping this perception every day. And now,
sorry to interrupt you. And who do you
please.
think is behind this? In your personal opinion?
Yani, I cannot say that this or this is behind this Islamophobia, because this is a common phenomenon for all around the world, and this is not new. But I have to admit that this
Very
is
similar to Russophobia too.
definitely correct. And now xenophobia as well nowadays. The xenophobia is on the rise.
With the coronavirus.
Correct. And again, at the last line, at the last sentence, I have to say that this is not a problem of the Muslims, but this is a problem of humans, and this is a humanitarian problem. It's a problem of humanity. And as you mentioned, Russophobia, xenophobia, or other phobias are only the different phases of this xenophobic attitude and approach. So we have to cope with this xenophobic approach through democratical channels as a humanity. And now we are seeing one uprising against these xenophobic approaches and systematic xenophobic approaches in the United States of America. The Black Lives Matter uprising, which is taking the stage nowadays in America and in several countries in Western Europe, is the uprising against this xenophobic approach. And I hope, inshallah, in the future, it will be more. I hope the future will be more brighter without these xenophobic approaches. And as youth, we have to work together for fighting against all kind of these xenophobic approaches.
Of course, definitely. And you mentioned Muslim minorities living in Europe, specifically Muslim youth in European countries, who are mostly migrants and refugees. It is very common that in Europe we see this rhetoric that Muslim refugees or any kind of refugees from the states that are not preferred in Europe, that many European leaders are claiming that they don't want to integrate in European society, that they prefer to stay in their groups and to keep their traditions, keep their culture, and so on. And in view of many people, this is causing some problems in Europe. What do you think about this approach? Do you believe that those migrants and refugees from Muslim countries, for example, who come to Europe, should they integrate smoothly in the European society, like stop wearing hijabs and dress European, or is it okay for them to keep their traditions, to keep their clothing, and just to stay the way they are?
Thank you very much, dear Valerie. And this is also linked with your question about Islamophobia as well, because this is another phase of I don't want to say it as a white supremacy, which is unique term for the United States of America, but it's also a case for the European Union and Western countries as well, because while they are mentioning about the integration of these refugees or integration of these people who are not sharing their religious or cultural values, they're not talking about the integration in reality, in truth. They are talking about the assimilation. And as a citizen of Turkey, for example, in Germany, we have more than 3 million people who are living in Germany who had immigrated there more than 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And in France, we have almost 1.5 million people. And in Belgium, in Holland, even in Spain, or even in Italy, you can find so many Turkish people who had immigrated there for 4 or 5 decades. So they're now living as a fourth or even fifth generation there, and they're still, most of them, still preserving their culture, their religion, their Turkish traditions in their house or in their living standards. In Austria as well, you can find so many Turkish people, so many Turkish immigrants, and most of them, almost all of them, has the citizenship of these countries as well. But as we had witnessed, unfortunately, in the Solingen tragedy, which was lead to the death of murder of 7 Turkish people, including young boys and toddlers and babies who are innocent from any kind of claim. And also, as we have witnessed in the NSU murders in Germany, these immigrants who are living there for the last 50 years, who have citizenship, who have all kind of economical production, who are part of the integral part of the society, can also be a target for such horrendous approaches, this xenophobic approaches, this kind of violent approaches. And if this integral part of society can be target of these approaches, when we are talking about the refugees, of course they are more vulnerable to those approaches as well. And again, they are not asking for integration, but they are asking for assimilation. And even if you are assimilated to the society with your religion, with your beliefs, with your everything, as we can see it in United States of America, or even in other Western countries, you cannot be the citizen in the first degree. Now there's an uprising, as we have mentioned, which can be labeled as Black Lives Matter, and they had a president with a Mexican, President Barack Obama, but they're still become a target of this violence, because this violence is not about your integration or your assimilation. This violence for that. This approach is about the mind of supremacy and the mind of racism in their head. And the formulation of this racism is about being the white, being the Westerner, being the part of a specific culture. And we know that this extremist, this racist approach had led world to several disasters during the World War II, during the World War I, and then we have seen other tragedies all around the world. So if we turn back to our question, what is the integration that a refugee shall do? I think the only integration that we can hope from a refugee or from an immigrant is if he or she can become an integral part of the economical production chain, and if he or she produce some economical values for the community, for the sake of the community, plus if he or she is violating any strict rules of the community, which is about the living standards, common values, but it shall not be about his or her religion, it shall not be about his or her skin color, it shall not be about his or her beliefs, values, traditions, or national values, because the wealth of the humanity is our color colors, and is about our cultures, differences of our religions, differences of our ideas. If we are all the same, what will be the wealth of our humanity? What will be the value of our humanity? So I think we have to save our colors. We have to save our cultures. We have to save our religion, and it's up to us to accept other beliefs or values or not, but it shall not be enforced by any other third person or community. And we shall talk about economical integration, not about any cultural or other kind of integration or assimilation, but once we are talking about the refugees. And when we are talking about the refugees, as you say, there's a hypocrisy in the definition of the refugees itself. If these refugees comes from some validated countries, they can have the first-rate citizenship. They can have all the immunities, and they will not be labeled as refugee, but they will be labeled as guest. But when you are coming from other states, other countries, I don't want to name it to not to become a discriminative. Then you become a refugee, and you will be treated as a threat, and as an, sorry for that, but as an illness, as a virus, and we are now witnessing it in the border of Greece. They're attacking to the refugee boats. They're sinking them. But you know, when you are looking into the details, the refugees coming from those countries are more vulnerable compared to the other people who are from the validated countries. So if you are accepting the refugees on the basis of humanitarian values, you should accept these people in need compared to other people who are from the validated countries.
Thank you. I think it's a very smart idea. And what is, in your opinion, the solution to the refugee crisis? Because, you know, in my opinion, the crisis is caused by the by the West itself, basically, like the situation that was caused in the Middle East, and this people were just victims of this geopolitical game, you know, so that's why they're fleeing their homes and trying to find a better life in Europe, for example. And what do you think about it? Because also, you know, there is a debate, and the society is quite polarized in Europe. Some people think that okay, Europe should accept all the refugees, and then some countries are closing their borders. And what do you think about it? Like, why was it caused, this refugee crisis, and what is the solution?
The solution is obvious. If we can achieve the peace for all around the world, if we make all the people in the world living in a normal standards, there will be no refugee. But we are very far away from reaching this ideal solution, of course. So, but of course, the solutions that we shall offer shall be inspired from this ideal solution as well. So, first of all, the states, the countries shall focus on reducing, diminishing, and then eliminating all kind of conflicts and clashes between the states and countries, and within the states and countries as well. First, this is the first thing first. But I also, my second major is the international politics. Especially, I'm graduate from the Euro Master program in Free University of Brussels. So But when I
So
was
you're very much familiar with the situation.
yes, I had graduated from the university in 2009, and at those times, you know, the European Union was a dream for everybody. It was an ideal union for all around the world. It was an ideal intergovernmental organization, and they have very they have the highest values for the whole world, and they were acting like angels. They were preaching about the humanitarian values. They were acting like they were perfect. But after time has passed, and when now we are in 2020, we all know that all the values and all the system of European Union, unfortunately, died. I don't know why. I know there are several reasons, but one of the first reasons is that of the European Union values is, of course, the rise of the far right in the European Union countries. Mm-hmm. And this rise of far right in the European Union countries leads several refugee crises as well, not only in the Middle East, but also within the European Union itself, because even though there are some countries who are European Union members, there are some political movements in other Western countries, more Western countries, and who are also acting against the movement of people and movement of goods from those Eastern European countries to the Western ones. Mm-hmm. And all kind of these clashes and conflicts within the European Union is also leads to a consequence that there is no common policy for refugees in European Union as well. Mm-hmm. And once we are looking into the details why there are refugee crises in all around the world, we are seeing the conflicts, the clashes, and also the poverty, and economic poverty. And most of them, as you mentioned, has reasons about the intervention of international community and namely the European countries or the United States of America. So they're intervening to the countries as we are witnessing in Syria. They're letting the crisis become a catastrophe, and then they're closing their doors to the refugees. But I don't know any person who leaves their country, who leaves their home, who leaves their family, who leaves their loved ones for nothing, for migrating to another country without securing anything. But these people, I think almost 60% of the whole Syrian population are displaced. Some of them are internally displaced in the Syria itself, and most of them has to migrate to other countries as refugees. So when we are talking about the refugees and the European Union approach, we have to, first of all, admit their hypocrisy on their approaches. And I don't know the exact solution, what we can do, but first of all, European Union as one of the main model of this problem, they shall act immediately for the sake of the refugees, because once we are talking about refugees, we are not talking about something that out of this world. We are talking about the people. We are talking about young people, children, adult people. We are talking about some old people, and they're part of this humanity. And if you don't provide solution immediately, you are losing generations and you're losing the future as well. And also, from the economical perspective, if we don't have any crisis in Middle East, the economic production, the production chains would probably produce more economical wealth for every people all around this geography. So European Union, Russia, Turkey, Iran would also enjoy from this wealth as well. For example, as a citizen of Turkey, I really don't want to see any problem in Syria or in any other countries in our borders. But we have to face off with this problem, and now they're letting us all alone to shoulder this problem by ourselves. Okay, we have enough power to shoulder this problem by ourselves with the good cooperation with Russia, but without if they leave us alone, they will not. If they will not be part of the solution, this refugee crisis will continue to affect them, because it's not easy to solve this problem alone, as we have witnessed it in the last 9 years, because now the crisis in Syria is 9 years old.
Mm-hmm. Already.
Yes,
The
already.
time flies. Yes, I remember
Definitely.
it was the first start when I was finishing school, and first there was Libya, and then it switched to Syria, and the conflict is still going on. Many people, I'm sure they're forgetting how horrible it is, and that it is still going on, because we just hear occasional news about some new, explosions or something,
Unfortunately.
but it's going on always, every day, and people are suffering. More and more people are in trouble, and so on. Yeah, this is a very
And
serious issue. And what can we do as youth organizations? Can we do anything to help this situation?
we are trying to do our best. We are trying to provide some solutions especially for the conflict areas. We are trying to provide trainings, courses for first of all for well-being, or mental well-being, and second, we try to provide trainings for entrepreneurship, vocational education. We are trying to provide some training for peace building. We are trying to provide projects for economic empowerment of these young people, young generation. We are trying to provide some projects for integrating these young people, these displaced people, or young people who had been hit by this conflict, who are vulnerable in these areas. Also, we are trying to provide people for bridging them with other parts of the world, because when I have visited conflict areas, I have visited so many conflict areas in the world, from Southeast Asia to Africa and in so many sites in Middle Asia as well. And I had the chance to listen so many stories from them, and I have understood that, and you could easily understood that they become easily desperate. So you have to show them that the world is not limited to this conflict area. There is other opportunities, and because the hope is the thing they make alive for the next day. So for opening new horizons, for introducing the other parts of the world, for giving them other pictures from the world is very important. So we are trying to build bridges between youth in conflict areas to the other parts of the world. Also, we are trying to establish an exchange program, which is focusing on especially the students and young people in these conflict areas to other part of the world. And also we are in almost all of our debate or discussions, one of our static agenda items is about the conflict areas, and we are trying to always seeking out what we can do for the sake of these young people.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, these are very limited approaches. We need some more systematical, more structural approaches, which is beyond our power maybe as young people from governments. But as young people, I think we should prove ourselves that we are seeking for solution for this refugee crisis, for these conflicts, for these clashes, because I really don't want to. I really don't want my daughter to see this crisis in her life in future again. And for avoiding this, we have to do our best. And I think the best thing for our generation, at least, is to raise the awareness about how terrible to be part of the conflict if you are a winner or if you are a loser. So I think this is the most important thing.
Yes, I believe we're all in the same boat, especially as young people, and many things in the future depend on us. So unless we solve the situation as soon as possible, our future generations will suffer the same thing.
Correct.
Yes, and we only have 2 minutes left, I believe.
Really?
Yes, the time flies so fast with these live streams, but maybe we can get a few questions from the audience, just something brief, like where do you see yourself where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
I don't know. I see myself from 5 years from now only as a father of my children, and I really cannot dream about myself, my future at least.
Okay, children are important.
Definitely.
There was another question, and hurry up, guys, if you want to ask something else, then write it in the comments while I'm looking for another one. I think people are saying that, okay, hello from Indonesia, country with the largest Muslim population.
Hello to Indonesia as well.
You have a fan from Turkey, Sizi Libsli. Sorry. Everybody is saying hello.
Okay, hello to all the audience and the friends from Turkey as well.
Hi to Putin. Okay, short question. How did you start with ICYF? What was your first step?
My first step was becoming the member of General Assembly. Then during the 4th General Assembly, I had been elected anonymously as the president. But before that, we were part of the ICYF projects as the member organization of Turkey. The name is the Hürriyet Adalet Derneği, the Justice and Freedom Foundation. We were part of the ICYF projects. We were implementing ICYF projects in Turkey. Then at the 4th Assembly, I had elected the president in 2018, October.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So do you have some message that you want to convey to our viewers? It's like the last drop of our live stream.
It was really a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you very much for all the audience, and thank you very much for all team of Russian Youth Council, especially thank you very much, dear Valerie. It was really a pleasure for us, for me, and for all the audience. I want ask them to work for the sake of their family, their nation, their community, and I think the existential reason that we are here, our life, is to do good things in our lifetime. So we should as individuals or as the institutions that we are representing, we shall do all the possible good things in our lifetime.